Baie vir my beteken. In die dag wat sy nie meer daar is, toe kollaps alles.
On a cold winter's night in July 1989, Coline Williams and Robert Waterwich were killed in the prime of their youth. Until today, no one knows what really happened that dark, fateful night.
We had a lot of unanswered questions, and we just thought, okay, this is our chance to ask these kinds of questions and maybe somebody will answer it.
Coline was a daughter of Mrs. Williams and the daughter of Bontival.
Alles wat sy gedoen het, was so perfect gewees. Sy het baie vir my beteken. In die dag wat sy nie meer daar is, toe kollaps alles.
She had the stamina for politics. She had the stamina for resistance. She had the stamina for struggle.
The 1980s saw South African clergy and Christian youth becoming influenced by liberation theology.
Her involvement in the struggle was her commitment to Christ and the call to establish God's kingdom on earth. For her, it was living out the gospel of Christ.
Many South African priests found themselves in the front line, trying to stem the carnage happening all around them.
I saw myself fundamentally as a revolutionary who also does other priestly work, which in some cases means holding an AK-47 in storage for somebody else to come pick up.
Young people like Coline had to live an extremely lonely life. You know, they had to live a secret life.
Tapping into a sort of supra-consciousness that is national.
We want freedom! Hey! Hey, hey! Coline Williams! Hey! Hey, hey! Is a gorilla! Hey! Hey, hey! Coline Williams! Hey! Hey, hey! Is a gorilla! Hey! Hey, hey!
Bontival epitomized the revolution. Bontival was the liberated zone.
See buses burning, Caspers burning, police chasing young people fighting back.
Ashley Krill, an MK cadre and close friend of Coline, was executed by the security police in May 1987. His death ignited a wave of protest. Bontival was ablaze. Despite the security forces' iron fist clampdown, hundreds of youth ran down this road carrying his coffin. They gave their hero a cadre's burial. Many people remember Coline wrestling the head of the riot squad for the ANC flag, which he had ripped off Ashley's coffin.
Coline was a target of the head of the defense force, the chief of the army and the chief of staff intelligence, all the way down to the lower ranks when she was in prison already. Because there was a military communication about her when some young people threw a petrol bomb through a post office window demanding a release from prison.
We felt a need for our people to be protected because we were killed left, right and center.
When Ashley died, that township exploded.
We had to have some kind of striking force against the apartheid system.
The times were filled with paranoia and suspicion, always watching your back. Activists had to find clandestine ways of operating.
As much as I was close to Coline, never throughout any of our discussions would anything ever have been dropped that Coline was involved in the underground. Now, for me, that was extreme discipline.
We were urban guerrillas, we were urban warriors.
Underground operatives were trained in the use of small arms, usually Soviet Makarovs, and in automatic weapons like the AK-47.
Surveillance, counter-surveillance, reconnaissance, doing reconnaissance around targets, and also how you collect your information. And from there, you plan your operations.
Coline had already completed 3 successful military missions. No one knew that she was part of the military underground, not even her family. She left for a meeting one afternoon and never came home.
I felt deeply and strong that something was wrong. Die week toe gegaan en almal praat in die trein praat hulle oor die bomplaas en by die week het hulle gepraat oor die bomplaas. Kon nie my dogter gevisit nie. Sy is mos nie die vrou nie wat hulle sê nie. Kon nie staan nog 'n jong meisie.
I sat outside this house for about an hour and I couldn't get myself to come in to tell the family that Coline has died.
Which was read at Coline's funeral. Somebody wrote the poem for. I went to go sit next to my mother and they gave us the news. It was really heavy on us because it was just the 2 of us. We couldn't turn to anybody else. The next morning, we went to the mortuary. I went in and I went to go look. And Coline's eyes was out with like blood trails, almost like tears from her eyes, and the way her face looked, it looked clearly like her eyes was removed.
Her entire womanhood in the center of her midriff was ripped out.
Because all we got right from the start is cover-up stories and people's opinions. We weren't interested in opinions and rumors and stuff. We wanted facts.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
This detachment was literally being squeezed and suffocated by the pincers of 3 lethal arms of the state security apparatus. From day one, I started picking up things that just didn't make sense about this case. This is the place where the body of your sister, Coline, and Robert Motovich were found. The alleged explosion.
Clues at the site of the explosion just didn't add up. There was no damage to the wall where the explosion took place. The only damage that was visible was a small indentation in the ground. All the installations, like the drainage and piping, bore no marks that resembled an explosion of a limpid mine. There was a packet of cigarettes, money, keys, and some documents. Again, none of these looked like they were part of any explosion. Seconds after the blast, the security police were on the scene and the entire area cordoned off. Regular police on duty were sent off.
Certain things were removed, used for whatever, and then it was placed back because afterwards they must have realized this should have been.
The Truth and Reconciliation Investigative Unit searched police stations. They shut down a military base for 3 days and obtained a search warrant to search for any documents that could shed light on the case. Some encrypted documents were found. Most had vanished.
The theories are, one, is that somebody had infiltrated the unit and had tampered with the explosions, and that the limpid mine was 0 time.
During the investigation, it was found that a military intelligence handler had a source within the unit who was responsible for the unit's arms cache. He admitted that they had gone into the unit's logistical arms cache and tampered with the explosives.
Coline's strongest feature was her eyes. If you hated Coline, you hated her for her eyes because your eyes is like a window to your soul.
Members of the family believe that the liberation movement itself should bear some responsibility, that Coline and Robbie were maybe set up to be martyrs. The TRC investigator also asked the pertinent question, was there a getaway car? 3 operations went out that night, targeting venues that were to be used as polling booths for the upcoming whites-only election. 2 were aborted because they suspected the explosives were defective. An alternative theory, which most fits the evidence, is that Coline and Robbie were abducted by the police, gruesomely tortured and then killed, that they were already dead by the time the explosion went off, and that the scene had been set up to make it look like they had died as a result of the blast.
Is 'n slang in die gras.
It leaves one with a chilling reminder that slogans like freedom or death sometimes bear gruesome consequences.
It was ordinary people that could come out and could say, Robbie was no terrorist, Coline was no terrorist.
Mama, you did that also. It was nice. Mommy?
Ek voel baie trots op haar. En sy het iets bygevoeg die nuwe Suid-Afrika.
And Coline told him, it is better to die for an idea that will live than to live for an idea that will die. The battles has been won, but I was still very much in the dark of what actually happened to my sister.
If we are to give any meaning to a death, if we are to dignify a memory, then we have a responsibility to find those answers.
In order to honor the memory of Coline and other fallen comrades, a commemoration was held to put their memory to rest, to let their spirits soar. Traditional Khoisan herbs like buchu and Wotnots Khoigoed were used to call upon the ancestors like Alchemato, Doman, Pretoa to receive them. Former comrades, family and friends, unable to bring themselves to make the journey to the site of their gruesome deaths before, now found themselves able to participate in an ancestral ceremony. Coline and Robbie's deaths in 1989 were a turning point in the Western Cape struggle history. To truly honor their memory, the many unanswered questions need to find answers.